Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. So, right in the sweet spot for Tim, what will ISIS look like by the end of 2020 in the Middle East, and specifically in terms of strength and structure? So the forecast, and remember, this is interesting as to what people were worried about at the end of 2019. No one's asking about a pandemic because that came later. But I predicted continued instability in Syria and Iraq, resulting in increased terrorism, growth of networks, and the reconstitution of ISIS. This is very important because there's a bumper sticker thing going around that Trump defeated ISIS, and that is completely wrong. We took the territorial holdings away, but when you're an insurgency, you don't have territory. That's like the difference between ISIS as an emerging state actor and ISIS as an insurgency is the emerging state actor has territory. You take the territory away, they become an insurgency. They don't just disappear. However, I didn't predict they'd be in full insurgency until late 2020 and early 2021. And I think that's true. And I wanted to touch, I'm going to try and do some, try and show this on the map. So we'll go for a little map time. First of all, let's start with Iraq, and then we're going to do a world tour on ISIS, so you know where ISIS is. So you can link this video when it goes up if someone says ISIS is defeated. First of all, Iraq and Syria, the forecast is correct, right? They have reconstituted themselves after the pummeling they took under President Obama and President Trump. We did do a good job pushing them back. We took them from 30,000 fighters, probably down to a couple thousand. They are now back up to about 10,000 fighters. That is a large force. ISIS fighters are, they have a force multiplier in their fighters. Even though 10,000 doesn't sound like much, you need to understand these are very committed, very determined, very experienced fighters. But not only that, ISIS gains through division. And what I mean is, if you can imagine that Iraq, you took all the military capabilities of Iraq and you said that was 10, and ISIS has got 10,000 fighters, and that's now 2.5, right? Well, 10's more than 2.5. But Iraq isn't a unified state. You've got the PMCs, these mobilization committees, these that are the Shia-aligned and Iranian-backed militias, the PMCs. Those aren't part of the government. So now from 10, let's take it down to 6, and that, or let's say there's 3 for the PMCs and 7 left for Iraq. Now you've got the rest of Iraq. You've got the south, which is, or the Kurds in the north, take those out, so that's another 3. In the south, you have enormous protests between the civilian population and the government, the split. So what ISIS is looking at is ISIS is right now at 2.5 versus a bunch of other actors that are only at 3, and they're not likely to help each other, and they're fighting each other. So as ISIS continues to get ignored, the tipping point is going to be that threshold of where ISIS gets over 3 and is able to begin taking out elements of these groups while they're all fighting each other. And you're beginning to see this. In the last couple months, there have been rocket attacks. ISIS has launched major rocket attacks on military bases in northern Iraq and the so-called Sunni Triangle. And so it's definitely leading the forecast that I was talking about, that ISIS is here, it's active, it's not what we all saw 2013 through 2018, it's different, but it's getting that way fast. It's got tremendous terrorist capabilities, it's got insurgent capabilities, and we're now in a situation where conditions are ripe for that insurgency to blow up again. But ISIS is not limited to Syria and Iraq, and this is where I just pull my hair out when people say, well, we defeated ISIS. Let's go on a little bit of a world tour here and see if I can navigate this with the controls. So here we are in the world tour, right? And oops, let me collapse that. All right, so where we were just talking about, Syria and Iraq, for those who don't know, right? Persian Gulf, Mediterranean, Europe. Hopefully your Atlas is tuned in enough now. So Syria and Iraq, everything I was just talking about was here in Syria and Iraq. Well, don't forget that ISIS still has the ability to draw inspirational support to lone wolf actors in areas that we're concerned about. So we go up here, right? Austria, Vienna, just before the presidential election, late October, early November, there was a mass terrorist attack, ISIS supporter. So still has projection capability into Western countries. And there hasn't been one in the US in a while. That doesn't mean there might not be another, but that was a large one just 2 months ago in Austria and Vienna. But ISIS's biggest threat is not just its terrorists. Those are like pinpricks in the global scheme, but it's its sort of affiliates. So scroll down here, right? Horn of Africa, Yemen. Good news here, ISIS is not doing well. This has been a protracted civil war. Saudi Arabia has intervened, not to much effect, just pinning itself there. You have Al-Qaeda and ISIS are fighting each other. ISIS has been kind of defeated here. That's good news. They're not doing so well in there. Scroll up here to Egypt, ISIS in the Sinai Peninsula. So there's 10,000 fighters in Syria and Iraq. Sinai, this area in Egypt, the Sinai province, ISIS SP, 500 to 1,000 more fighters. Go down here, right? Where is Mozambique? Here we go, Mozambique, up here. This whole area in the north, hopefully the resolution scales in, here we go. This whole area in the north part of Mozambique has had an insurgency go in. It was a local insurgency, an indigenous insurgency. They partnered with ISIS last year, and you've seen me post this on the info mullet. ISIS announced its presence with several large mass casualty attacks. We're talking 500 people killed in a stadium. I mean, just horrific stuff. And what they're doing is so again, a couple hundred ISIS fighters, but mainly this is a local insurgency, and that's what ISIS does. ISIS partners with local insurgencies and causes these kind of problems. You may have heard, for example, where are we at here? Nigeria, right? Boko Haram, Nigeria, right? Boko Haram is an ISIS affiliate. Just 2 weeks ago or a week ago, they kidnapped 300 school students the young men. And this is the same group that kidnapped several years ago. You remember Bring Our Girls Home, or that with First Lady Michelle Obama holding up the sign. It was a big hashtag movement. Same group, Boko Haram, very active, very dangerous. You have up in Libya, right? So let's scroll up here. Libya. Good news here, ISIS is defeated. They've only got a couple dozen fighters. The civil war there, none of the militias wanted anything to do with ISIS, so it's been fairly well defeated in there. Let's see here. Heading over to Afghanistan, right? This is ISIS KP, ISIS in the Khorasan province, another 500,000 fighters. Philippines. They had a big action here where in 2018, they actually took this city, Marwawai, which is, I thought I had it. Anyway, yep, here we go, Marwawai City. ISIS took control of the city, held it for 6 months. Probably didn't hear about that, when we're defeating ISIS. There's not thousands of fighters, but they took Abu Sayyaf, which was a local group here. They absorbed them, and now that's an ISIS affiliate. And then the big thing for ISIS is actually over here, scroll out, in the South Saharan region. This area right here. So for those, this is the northern line of coast of Africa. This is the Sahara. This area here is called the Sahel. Names might sound familiar. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Nigeria. This area is a huge battleground right now for ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And what's going on is there are multiple insurgencies going on, and in this spot, they are actually fighting each other. And you can see it here, a little bit clearer map. This is where the locations are in this swath, this Sahel region of Africa. Last year, I posted kind of a cryptic, I had a bad feeling. It was about this region. You got Mauritania, Mali, Niger, Chad. By the way, France is intervening in Mali, so there are still Western governments trying to intervene and contain ISIS. But what you see here is you have Ansar al-Islam, Boko Haram, the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, and Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslim. I think I got that right, JNIM. Boko Haram, Niger, up in here. ISGS, different branch than Boko Haram. It is a different local indigenous insurgency that was more focused here in Burkina Faso and Mali that ISIS is partnered with. So ISIS has two groups in here, and they are fighting with the Ansar al-Islam and the JNIM, which are the Al-Qaeda affiliates. This is the Coke versus Pepsi. Wherever you get these two folks in close proximity, they fight each other. But this fight has become very intense and very severe over the past year. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention because of COVID-19 and the election and everything else, but ISIS is very much, now we may think, hey, this is Africa, it doesn't really bother us much. These folks, it's not just a local conflict here. These folks are part of the ISIS network, they're part of the ISIS brand, they draw ISIS support, and they may eventually lead to activities that can rebound on the West. So very key. The forecast was correct. ISIS has reconstituted. They're as big a threat as they were probably 2013 before they seized Fallujah. And what we're waiting for now is, unfortunately, I think they're going to seize another city, and that's how we're going to know that they're back on the map, is when they seize another city and govern it and reconstitute themselves as a emerging state actor. So see if there's any questions here. Yeah, so Lucas, good question. It is so weird to hear about affiliates in the context of ISIS. I normally hear in a business context, and I just picture someone negotiating a franchise agreement. That's actually very similar, Lucas. So what this is ISIS doesn't call them affiliates. ISIS calls them wilayats. I think I'm pronouncing that, W-I-L-A-Y-A-T, wilayat. That is the term for like an Ottoman province, the Ottoman Empire, a wilayat. And they established these wilayats under the old premise that the ISIS caliphate, the caliph, has dominion over all Muslims in the world, and these wilayats are the organized. Now, they are traditionally, these agreements are very much like a franchisee negotiation in that there's a local group. They have, just like a local restaurant chain, they've got a few stores, they got employees, they got managers, they got all those local things. But what they need is money, training, and a brand name that's a little bit better than whatever local thing they've been operating under. ISIS will come in, and these negotiations can take years. With Boko Haram, Boko Haram was an independent insurgent group, very large insurgent group. It was being courted by Al-Qaeda and ISIS for over 10 years. And these negotiations are going on. Who's going to give me the best deal? What's the royalty percentage? How much money you're going to give me? How many weapons you're going to give me? ISIS had all that money from the oil revenue, and that when they were controlling the parts of Syria, which was already in the oil, they went on, you can liken it to a corporate merger and acquisition. They went out and just bought indigenous insurgencies to build themselves up quickly. And the way these negotiations are sealed is it's not a document necessarily, although they use a lot of documents, so they often very well documented, but there's something called a bayat, which is an oath of loyalty that a group makes to a particular leader. And this is key. This is where it diverges from a corporate, is that the agreement of a local insurgency group, the bayat they swear, that oath of loyalty they swear, is to a particular leader of ISIS. So if you swore bayat to al-Baghdadi, when he was killed by the United States, you're a free agent. You can choose to swear to the next guy who replaces Baghdadi. You can break away from your own group. You might join Al-Qaeda. And this is a very big deal, because when in Al-Qaeda, when Osama bin Laden was killed, all the different actors that had sworn bayat to him became free agents, and some of those swore their bayat to al-Baghdadi at the time. This was 2012. And that led to part of the growth of ISIS and the splits that we saw between ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So that's a kind of fascinating subtopic, a little bit of a divergence, but very much I try and think of Al-Qaeda and ISIS as global corporate brands, global insurgencies, where you have a large or a core activity. In ISIS, it's in Syria and Iraq. In Al-Qaeda, it's in Pakistan, Afghanistan. They've got their core. But from that, they then go out and connect with local insurgencies, bringing brand, money, training, and often an inflow of recruits. So it's a very good analogy, though it does have limits. Lucas is pointing out creates organizational weakness. I'm not going to get into tactics and techniques on this episode, but a big part of my day job is exploiting organizational weaknesses like that. So yes, that does create organizational weaknesses, this bayat structure. And there's some things you can play around with that, but we'll save that for another episode. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the Info Mullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the Info Mullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.